Please join me in welcoming Negin Farsad to the podium.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the university for having me, the president, the provost, the deans of every college. Everyone has been so incredible, and I'm just very impressed with Lawrence Technological University, and I love a campus that isn't afraid of bagpipes. So that's been really incredible. Now, when I asked several administrators to describe the students here, I was expecting them to say stuff like, sometimes they party too hard, but they're good kids. But that's not what they said. Instead, one of them said, oh, they're all about robots. And yet another said, they love robots, but I promise it's not in a weird way. And I was like, I didn't think it would be in a weird way, but now that you're saying it, of course, that's what I'm thinking. And while other college seniors are busy, perfecting drunk Jenga or beer pong, you guys can't stop winning awards in engineering and self-driving vehicle competitions, which makes you guys this wonderful, complicated, and beautiful combination of weird and really nerdy. In fact, yes, a round of applause. Right before we walked on stage, I asked the president how he would describe the student body, and he said to me, we're geeks and we're very comfortable with that. And so it comes from on high. You might know me from stand-up or from my movies, but what they mentioned about me that I think is unusual for a comedian is that I not only went to college, but I followed that up with 2 master's degrees, one in African American studies and another in public policy, because you need both of those to be a comedian. So I have sat where you sit 3 separate times, wearing 3 slightly different gowns and hats, and I remember most being relieved that I didn't have to suck in my stomach when we were taking photos, right? Because the gown does that work for you. I also remember being worried about my parents because I could never predict how they would embarrass me. I just knew that it was coming. Parents, be careful with yourselves today. Look, so as a comic, do I have 3 degrees that I don't use? Absolutely. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Because, yes, okay, I learned a lot in class, like how to solve calculus theorems or about 18th century agrarian economics. But more than that stuff, it was on a college campus that I learned how to make small talk, how to make friends, how to get along with people I don't agree with. I learned what motivated me, what made me angry, what made me jump for joy. I learned how to make a grilled cheese sandwich on a hot plate. And it was in college that I voted in my first elections and where I made my first bong out of an apple, which was my version of making a robot. Now, it's also on a college campus where I first learned the art of protest to change campus policies, and that's something that I've used my entire life. And let me give you an example. First, I should point out that I'm an Iranian-American Muslim, like all of you. And years ago, I rounded up a bunch of Muslim American comedians in a nonviolent way, and we went around touring the country doing stand-up in states like Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, places where they love the Muzzies. And we called the show The Muslims Are Coming. We filmed the entire experience, interviewed people like Jon Stewart and Rachel Maddow to wax hilarious about Islamophobia, and we turned it into a movie. Now, when that movie first came out on Netflix, we wanted to promote it by putting up posters in the New York City subway system, which is operated by the MTA, the Metropolitan Transit Authority. We worked with the MTA on everything about these posters, right? From the font to the color to the word usage. Apparently you can't use the word poop or penis, so that cut out like half of our material. And after 5 months of back and forth with the MTA, they decided to ban our posters, saying that they were too political. Now, just to give you an idea, these were funny posters about Muslims, and some had ridiculous facts on them. For example, one of them said, "Fact, grown-up Muslims can do more push-ups than baby Muslims." Another said, the ugly truth about Muslims, they have great frittata recipes. So either frittatas are deeply politically fraught for the MTA, or the mere mention of Muslims in a positive light was seen as political, but it isn't. So we sued the MTA. A couple of dirtbag comedians took on a major New York State agency for the right to put up funny posters about Muslims, and after a year and a half of a legal battle, the comedians won. Thank you. My favorite little detail about the case is that we sued under the name of my production company, Vaguely Qualified Productions. So forever in the annals of New York City legal history, there is a case called Vaguely Qualified versus the state of New York. But it was in college where I learned that you can take on institutions and you can win. And as a comedian, I'm not always in court. Sometimes I'm doing gigs. And I want to share another story. This one time, I was performing in Centralia, Washington. And when I arrived at the theater, I found a group of about 25 people standing outside protesting me. They thought I was going to convert everyone to Islam. By the way, just by coming to this ceremony, you have all converted to Islam. Welcome. But it started raining outside. It's at the Pacific Northwest, and of course it was gonna do that, and we've all seen Twilight, and you know what happens when it gets dark. So I went up to them and I said, hey, thanks so much for protesting me, like I'm so flattered. In a weird way, you're my biggest fans because you spent money on poster board. But it's raining outside, so why don't you guys come in and watch the show? You can sit in the back, and then when the show's done, you can come right back out and keep protesting me. And they thought about it, and then they were like, well, no, actually, no, but like maybe we'll sit in the lobby. And I was like, yeah, definitely sit in the lobby and get out of the rain. And the producers were so embarrassed that this was happening. And I was like, no, don't be embarrassed. I have every right to perform here, and they have every right to protest me. And sometimes we forget how extraordinary that is. So we both kept our cool, expressed ourselves, and let our rights play out with dignity. And in the end, we both won. I always like to remember that people are not institutions. They deserve a little patience and a little grace. Now, I know you're graduating into a metric ton of uncertainty. I know you're nervous that a billionaire is gonna colonize the sun, or that there's gonna be some kind of new federal regulation requiring everyone to wear capri pants, or that the next day there's gonna be some sort of tariff on capri pants. And sometimes it feels like the uncertainty is just here to break you. But as Americans, we are great at uncertainty. Take my parents, for example. They came here from Iran. Now, what do you think when you think of the Islamic Republic of Iran? You think spring break, you think wet t-shirt contests, you think imams doing body shots. Oh my God, I wish. It is deeply not like that. So my parents left Iran to come to America with no money. They couldn't speak the language, and they didn't know anyone here. But they overcame their uncertainty and eventually ended up raising me in the desert of Southern California. My high school was over 50% Mexican, and most people just thought being Iranian was another way of saying I was Mexican. Now, years later, I'm married to a black man. My husband was beset with uncertainty because he was orphaned as a child and actually raised by a set of white Polish Catholic grandparents. Early when we were dating, we were going to his family's house for Thanksgiving, and my husband was nervous about them meeting me because apparently every Thanksgiving they have like a healthy anti-Muslim rant, presumably after giving thanks, but before the pie, right, because they're not monsters. But they were lovely, and I loved them. And when the time came, they transitioned away from doing an anti-Muslim rant to doing an anti-environmentalism rant, which, not great, but that's their flexibility, and it's how they show their love. I also had to deal with some of that stuff because on my side, my immigrant parents were just, let's just say, uncertain about my choice in a mate. My mom was like, when I told her I was getting serious with a black guy, she was like, we obviously do not hate black people, but why are you dating black people that we obviously do not hate? But they met him, and they love him, and he's like the son they never had, except for they do have a son. Now, an Iranian American and my black husband have a kid. She's obviously a Bluranian. And I get a kick out of seeing my husband's white Polish Catholic family hanging out with black and Iranian people because our entire family is a miracle that can only exist here in America, in spite of its uncertainty. And try as they might to make us forget, uniquely incredible things still happen in this country. So, you can clap at that. So don't let uncertainty ruin these joyful years. Take advantage of this time in your life. Sit around talking for hours with your friends because there will be a time when you have too many responsibilities to do that. Eat snacks past midnight because there will be a time when your body won't digest food after 6 p.m. and it comes fast. There's gonna be a time when you pretend to understand a meme someone just sent you. There's gonna be a time when you prefer sleep to a night out, and one day you'll be using slang like raw dogging, and you won't know that the meaning has changed. But now is the time for your energetic, joyful years. Go out, go to the club, go to the bar, go to the beach, go bowling, have sex in a bathroom, be around each other. And it's in the middle of karaoke, singing with friends who are tone deaf that you'll get an idea. It's when you're hungover, shamefully eating an Egg McMuffin that you'll hatch a plan. Because right now, being cheerful and in community is an act of hope, and it's an act of defiance. So let me try and wrap up by saying this. Learning doesn't stop today. It kind of goes on forever. I learn something about myself at every degree and every stage of my life. In fact, I learned a lot by having a kid. And I should note, I speak to my kid in Farsi because I'm trying to radicalize her. It's a 2-person sleeper cell. Right now, it's mostly the sleeper part because she still naps. So she speaks Farsi. My daughter also speaks Spanish because she's in a bilingual school. And she speaks English with her dumb dad who only speaks one language. And one day, when she was maybe 13 months old, we were at the playground and she goes down the slide by herself. And I wanted to go tell her in Farsi, "I'm proud of you." And as I go to tell her that, I realize, oh my God, I don't know how to say, "I'm proud of you" in Farsi, which suggests that in the 18 years I lived with my parents, they never once had occasion to say, "I'm proud of you." I had to call my cousin, she had to think about it. She had to dig up an ancient poem by Rumi with a phrase that somehow sort of sounds like "I'm proud of you." It's just not something Iranians say. It's not like the Ayatollah Khomeini was out there being like, "I'm proud of you." You know what I mean? It was just a phrase that got taken out with the sanctions. And so they never told me they were proud of me, and now I'm a comedian. My parenting advice is, if you want a comedian, withhold. You know what I mean? They don't need to hear the compliments. So in case you had immigrant parents like mine, and considering this is America, you probably did, let me be clear. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you for getting up and getting it done when instead you wanted to sleep in. I'm proud of you for choosing a class that you didn't feel like taking, but you knew it was good for you. I'm proud of you for making robots that will power our future, even though moments ago some random comedian was up here making fun of them. I'm proud of you for looking at the news and saying, "Sorry, news, I gotta graduate from college, so you're not gonna bring me down today." And from here, And from here, you'll keep making us proud by teaching, by engineering, building schools, founding companies, solving the next pandemic, inventing things we can't even imagine right now. You'll make us proud by running for office. None of it will be easy, but along the way, you'll be tough on institutions that deserve it, and you'll be gentle with individuals who need it. And one day, you'll think back and be like, damn, that one speaker, she was right. We're really good at uncertainty. Plus, she's really cool, and I will never, ever forget her for all of my days. And so to the class of 2025, I say, I'm proud of you, and congratulations. Thank you.